Today, we will talk about LLC operating agreement, definition, purpose, format, importance. An LLC operating agreement is a document that customizes the terms of a limited liability company according to the specific needs of its members. It also outlines the financial and functional decision-making in a structured manner. Although writing an operating agreement is not a mandatory requirement for most states, it is nonetheless considered a crucial document that should be included when setting up a limited liability company. The document, once signed by each member, acts as a binding set of rules for them to adhere to. The agreement is drafted to allow owners to govern the internal operations according to their own rules and specifications. The absence of an operating agreement means that your business has to be run according to the default rules of your state. An LLC is a type of U.S. business entity that is easy to form and simple to manage, and importantly limits the liability of owners. Since an LLC is a hybrid of a partnership and corporation, it provides the twin benefit of pass-through taxation with limited liability. To take full advantage of having an LLC, you should go one step further and write an operating agreement during the startup process. The operating agreement is thus a document that spells out the terms of a limited liability company according to the members. It sets forth the path for the business to follow and brings in more clarity in operations and management. A typical LLC operating agreement is a 10 to 20-page contract document which sets up guidelines and rules for the LLC. Businesses that do not sign an operating agreement fall under the default rules outlined by the states. In such a case, the rules imposed by the state will be very general in nature and may not be right for every business. Even if a business venture only has a single owner/employee, it can still be beneficial to codify the relationship with an LLC operating agreement. Having an operating agreement establishes a legal boundary between the LLC and the owner, so that the owner is not held accountable for the LLC's debts or liabilities. An operating agreement also allows the owner to codify the rules of succession for their business, as well as governance procedures such as meetings and voting. Without an operating agreement, ownership of the business is handled according to the state's default LLC rules. There are many issues that must be covered in the LLC operating agreement. The general format of the document includes the following. LLC operating agreements should also outline the specific definitions of terms used in the agreement, as well as list the purpose of the business, a statement of its intent to form, how it will handle new members, how it chooses to be taxed, how long it intends to operate, and where it is located. The best way to counter this problem is by writing an operating agreement, which gives freedom, protection, and control to your business. Though it's best to include an operating agreement in the initial stages, if you have missed on that, it's never too late to put it in place, provided all members agree to it. There's no legal requirement for an LLC to have a written business plan, but there are still clear advantages to having one. A well-structured business plan is an important tool to set out the goals and values of an enterprise and provides an objective way of assessing whether or not those goals are being met. No. While it is sometimes common to describe LLC membership as a share, this is not the same as stock units in a corporation. While members of an LLC have the right to share profits and make decisions concerning their company, an LLC cannot raise money by issuing stock shares. A partnership is a comparatively simple vehicle for business relationships. Unlike an LLC, there is no requirement for formal paperwork. A partnership is considered to have formed whenever two or more partners go into business together. Yes, LLC operating agreements can generally be amended, but the procedures for doing so will vary. In most cases, the process of amending an operating agreement should be spelled out in the agreement itself. If it is not clearly stated, the process for amending an operating agreement is determined by the default rules for LLCs in that state. A handful of states require all LLCs to have an operating agreement, even if they have only one member. In the other states, it is not required, but it is strongly encouraged, since they can protect the members from problems that the LLC may encounter. Here are 5 key takeaways. 1. An LLC operating agreement is a legal document that spells out the terms of a limited liability company to the members. 2. It sets forth the path for the business to follow and brings in more clarity in operations and management. 3. In some states, the operating agreement is required as part of establishing the business entity. 4. LLC operating agreements have some boilerplate sections with standard language, but one size does not necessarily fit all. 5. If an LLC does not have an operating agreement, it must be governed according to the default rules of that state. Hope this would help. Thanks for watching.